Hey guys, Andy here. So I realised recently that I'm a little bit of a Sony fanboy. Well, I'm not a Sony fanboy, but I've got a lot of Sony products. Kind of by chance. I don't think I bought them specifically because I wanted Sony. Not specifically. I think I give Sony a lot of credit for being a good brand and I have faith in their product. So my TV recently, my new one in my room, that's Sony. My soundbar, Sony. I won that, to be fair. I didn't even choose that. So that's kind of... My headphones, they are Sony. They are the best. The old... noise cancelling WH-1000 XM3s, very, very good. But I've never had a Sony device as my daily. I've tried quite a few. I think I've probably bought quite a few to try and review, but then something else has always been that little bit better, so I've always gone with something else. Which is kind of weird, because actually, for this video I was trying to check, well, where are they in the market share? You've got Apple first with 48% in the UK, and I couldn't find the source of this information. I had to pay money to find the source. I wasn't that bothered. Samsung second with 35%, and Sony third with 4%. 4%. Third with 4% as well. So like Huawei was on 1, Google like 1, HTC 1 or 2. I don't know, I think I've got the graph, which hopefully I'll pop somewhere there. You can see yourself. But either way, it's still third. That's, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have guessed that. I think I would have thought Huawei might have been ahead, and maybe that'll change with the Mate 20 Pro coming out now. I don't know. But still, you know, they're a relatively big player in the marketplace. And obviously, Samsung themselves are massive. I'm just saying specifically for phones. So yeah, it's kind of surprised I've never had a Sony as a daily, I guess. You may have seen about 4 months ago, I reviewed the XZ2. My main issue with the XZ2 was kind of the bulk of it, the size of it, and they have addressed that with the XZ3. So let's just kind of get that one out there right off the bat. It is 1.2 millimeters thinner. It's still 9.9 mil, so it's not crazy thin, but that's okay. It's very rounded, as you can see, rounded edges. And it does feel a lot better in the hand than the XZ2, so massive improvements, I think, in that respect. The buttons are very low profile. You see we've got a dedicated camera button, the power button, and then the volume rocker at the top. They're all quite low profile. They don't stick out much. I mean, you can feel them. It's not an issue, and they feel fine. But the low power button and the low fingerprint sensor, for me, is really quite odd. I don't know why they want them that low. I don't know of any other manufacturer that has the fingerprint sensor that low. The amount of times I've put my finger on the and then and I have to kind of move the device in my hand to get to the fingerprint sensor. Now the fingerprint sensor itself is fine. It's fast enough. It's reliable enough. I have found sometimes because I'm sliding around trying to find it, that when I slide on, it doesn't always work because it sort of says, "Oh, your finger was moving." It's working fine now, but I have had a couple of times where, oops, not the camera. A couple times where I've kind of, yeah, because I've been, again, it's because it is very low profile, the fingerprint sensor is not, it's not like you're finding a massive divot in the back of the phone. It is quite low profile. But yeah, it works fine. The button placement for me was quite a pain in my sort of universal car mount, because the clamps were basically where the power button was, the fingerprint sensor was now underneath where the mount is, and it was just a little bit annoying. It's also a really slippy device. It's glass front and back, so I'm going to hopefully not damage it. It doesn't matter how tightly you squeeze. Actually, no, so if I hold, can you see that's moving? And I'm squeezing. I don't know if you can see my hand is shaking. I'm trying to squeeze it so hard, and it's still sort of slipping. It's rotating in my hand. And obviously that in itself isn't. You don't walk around holding it like that. I'm just saying it's that slippy that even when you think you're gripping it as hard as you can, off it goes. And also on a desk, so it's not so bad on my sort of felted. You can see it moves a little bit. I like to have my phone on a table. Perhaps I'm eating my dinner or something, and the phone is on the table. Especially if it's like a wood table in the dining room at work, for example. I'm trying to type and just scroll through things. The phone's off all over the place because it's not. It's rounded and it's very slippy. That's the bottom line. So I do like the design. It's a much better feel in the hand than the XZ2. There's just a few things that personally I would change. They need some kind of texturing on the back, and they need all these buttons up. I don't know why they have them where they do. The actual hardware, it's not changed from the XZ2. So it's got the Snapdragon 845. It's got the same octa-core processor. Well, they seem to be the same from what I can see in the spec sheet. It's got the Adreno 630. It's got 4 gig of RAM. Sorry, but that gives a Geekbench of 8,977. That's pretty good, and it certainly feels slick enough in using. There's no sort of issues which you would expect with the latest Snapdragon 845. The speakers, let's give you a sort of sample of the speakers. They are stereo, top and bottom, front firing. Start with some music. So it's a little bit tinny. It's not. There's not really much bass there. Not that you'd expect a lot of bass from a mobile phone. And I don't listen to music on the speakers. I listen to podcasts. So let's try that.
That's why there's boulevards. That's why Houseman built the boulevards, is so that they could easily unbarricade them and troops could march in and break up the protests. But I mean, if you've ever seen Les Miserables, you know. I mean, this is a long.
And again, it's slightly tinny, but that's not a problem. I'm not. You know, for listening to the podcast, it is nice and clear. I can hear it over my kettle. That's my big test when I'm making my coffee in the morning. I'm listening to my podcast in the kitchen and I boil the kettle. If that's bubbling and boiling and I can't hear the phone, that's a bit of an issue. But to be fair, for the last year or two, I've not really had phones that have had that problem. It scored 84 decibels as an average on my test across various different kind of sound not sound mediums, like music, podcast, and a different bit of music, which is not great. That's reasonably. That's kind of 3/4 of the way down, so it's not particularly loud. But then again, I think my test doesn't fare well when it's stereo speakers, because I put it over 7 centimeters away from one of the speakers, so you're not really benefiting from the other speaker like you would if you're actually like watching a YouTube video or playing a podcast or whatever. So all stereo speakers lose out a little bit in that respect. The bottom line is, you know, it wasn't a problem. I do use external speakers quite a lot. I didn't find it a problem. So now the biggest place I think they've made the improvements is in the screen. So this is a 6-inch POLED compared to the previous one on the XZ2, which was an LCD, I think IPS LCD. Now in the specs on GSM Arena, it says it's HDR BT.2020 compliant. I have no idea. I have no idea what any of this means, if I'm very honest. Triluminous display with the X Reality engine. If anyone wants to explain that to me in the comments, I'd be grateful. The screen itself is 2880 by 1440, so it's very high res. That's about 537 pixels per inch, which is very good. And it does look very good, I would say. It's very sharp. It does have, because it's POLED, it does have an always-on display with proper notifications. Unlike my Mate 20 Pro, I can see when I've got third-party apps with notifications, which is great. It's not on by default always on. So for me, the AO of AOD is always on. But actually, they've got some kind of smart always on. I won't lie, to switch it straight to being always on, unless it thinks it's in your pocket or whatever. Then obviously it's gonna go off. So that's fine. It's got Corning Gorilla Glass 5, and actually the sort of pretty amazing thing of it is that it scored, what was it? Hang on, 946 lumens in my test. 946 lumens. That's very bright. I think that's actually the brightest phone I've ever tested. I mean, I'll give you. You're not really going to be able to tell because the camera is going to adjust the rest of the image to sort of factor in how bright the display is. So let's turn off adaptive brightness and let's crank it right at the top, and you should see everything else has gone dark all around it because the screen is so bright. Where is my white gone? I don't know why. I need to show you a white, but that's how bright. I mean, that's almost like a torch in itself. Look at that. So it is very bright screen, and this, like I say, the screen itself is clearly something they decided they want to. I mean, I guess you'd kind of expect that from Sony, being the maker of great TVs, etc., etc. You would think they would have a good screen, and it is a very good screen. We're going to move on to talking about the camera, or the cameras, but I'm mainly talking about the rear-facing camera, which is a 19 megapixel f2.0. The f-stop, if you didn't know, if you haven't seen my video before, I always give the quick explanation. The lower the number on the it's the f-stop, but the f-stat, if you didn't know what it is, the lower the number, the better. So some camera phones are now, is it 1.6 or is it even a 1.5? I think 1.6 is the lowest you go. Basically refers to how much light it lets in when you take a picture, really. The lower it is means that more light gets in, therefore you hope for better low light and dark images. The interesting bit, I think, is that it can do 2K at 30 frames per second, 4K, sorry, 2160p, 4K, but it can also do 1080p at 960 frames per second. I don't think there's any other phone that can do that. I double checked, like the Note 9, the Mate 20 Pro, their 960 or is it 940, 960 frames per second is 720p. So I don't think there's any other phone out there that can do full 1080p super slow-mo. Having said that, I'm not sure I've ever used super slow-mo in actual real, like, I know I use super slow-mo on this. So, I don't know, is it, maybe you do, maybe you use it all the time, and actually that might be a really big factor to you. That, yeah, I mean, it's impressive. I mean, that's to do with kind of, I don't know, processing power, I guess like the bus speed, I think. I'm not too technical, but just how fast it can process that much, that many pixels at 960 frames per second. That is quite impressive, I think. So I give Sony their credit for that. Really, really good. The images themselves, they generally looked good. There wasn't really any issues. It was generally quite reliable. I sometimes found the shutter would be a little bit slow when it bounced a little bit to focus and then it would take the picture. So a little bit of a downer there, but not much. Generally the pictures look good. The low light photos generally looked okay. Likewise with the video, so it seemed to have very good image stabilization. I thought the detail looked pretty good in the videos, the sound was fine, and even in low lights the video quality was still pretty good, I would say. So I mean, I'm not sure I'd put it up there with the best of them, but because when you zoom in there's a little bit of noise here and there on different pictures, but generally it seemed a good, steady, solid camera. There's quite a lot of options in. We'll have a quick, or I'll just quickly show you. One thing I realised, making videos now in December, as I am, I wake up and it's dark, I drive to work in the dark, I finish work and it's dark, I drive home in the dark, and I didn't use the camera much, and I actually felt a bit bad when I was preparing. I thought, oh, I haven't taken many photos. So you might need to go and source a different video if you really need to know more about the camera, because I just didn't get many opportunities to use it. But the camera app itself, we've got various different modes. I think I covered most of them in previous video on the XZ3, so you could maybe nip and have a look. Actually, don't worry about that. But it's a fairly simple camera app with a few settings. Oh dear. I don't think there's too much. So we have got the extra button that you can use to open the camera. Also, what was it called? There is raise in landscape to open the camera. I forget what it's called, but so basically the phone is as such, and I lift it up and it's not done it. Brilliant. No, it's refusing. It has worked, and it did work, so it's worked that time. Maybe I've got to, so it even explains it. I'll just show on this camera, maybe a bit easier. Smart launch, it just explains that lifting up in landscape basically does this. We can say, all right, now we've read it, and then you touch inside and it opens the camera app. And generally, let's just try once more. So it's on the desk, and then I pick it up to take a picture, and there we go. It has come. So I don't quite know why I didn't the first couple of times, and there's my palm, look. So I think that's most of it about the camera. So the software is actually quite stock Android. So if we go in, you see like the pull downs there, that's very stock looking Android. Oops. All of that very stock looking. We go into the settings, and that's very stock looking. Let's just show you what version. Where is it? Android version 9. Look, so it does just show that we're on Android Pie. If you want to know the build number of the one I'm reviewing, there we go. So the only, oh yeah, I mean, I should show you, I suppose. For me, the big letdown in the software is the launcher. So I've put Nova Launcher on, Oh, I'm not particularly a fan of, is it swipe? I swipe the keyboard. I'm not a massive fan of that. So home app, let's go here and let's just change, oh, not settings, sorry, let's change it to Xperia Home. And it's just, I don't know, to me it's just a bit clunky. So I have got it set to, you start off with a the app drawer button, but you can change it to swipe up. But then I've got to swipe sideways. And the amount of time, and you swipe down to get rid of it, the amount of times I swiped up and, oh yeah, sideways. It's just quite odd. Yeah, I don't know why they would particularly do that. Let's go back to a Nova Launcher. But actually, if you're on Nova Launcher, it's really, it turns the phone into a really quite a stock device, which I really like. Little small things I've mentioned before. If you're listening to music and you take a photo, it stops the music or you film, but it doesn't start it again, which I think is a little bit weird. Double tap. Oh yes, it's got this thing where it says to double tap on the edges of the screen, and it brings up kind of app recommendations and things that you might need, or one-handed mode, which, yeah, okay, yeah. But the amount of times, and I probably won't be able to do it now, but I'll have been holding the device, and I don't exactly know what I do, but all of a sudden I feel the vibration of the phone, and that funny app launcher, see, it won't even come up now. Maybe because I've been holding the side of the phone. Hello? No, it's gone now. Yeah, a little bit odd. I'm not quite sure what they thought the benefit of that was. So the software, I mean, it's okay. Like I say, it's actually quite stock, and we're up to, what was the, I didn't check while we were in there what the security version was. There we go. So 1st of December security is now the 17th. You know, that's as new as it can possibly be. So actually, well done Sony. The software, you know, it's not a negative, let's put it that way. I would even venture towards being a positive. It's up to date, it's slick and smooth, it's generally quite stock. Just changed the launcher, which feels like it's 4 years old, and actually it's quite a nice experience. If we move on to the battery, so it's only a 3,300 mAh battery, which is quite small compared to some of the devices I've been using recently. It scored 91.5%, so literally I think it was about 10 seconds off from dropping from 92 to 91, so I give it a 91.5. Which is okay. It's not great, it's okay. But actually in actual use, and I'm sort of relying quite a lot of these days on AccuBattery to tell me how long it thinks things will last. And the bottom line is I can get about 7.75 hours of screen on time. If I was just, you know, watching movies or whatever, that's not bad, 7 hours. If I didn't turn it on at all, 46 hours, that's pretty good. And from combined use, 32 hours. That's not bad. I mean, this came off charge this morning at around 6 o'clock, if not a bit earlier than that actually, and I'm still at 66%, so that's pretty good. So the battery, it sounds really small and like it's not going to cope with a massively bright screen that it has. Somehow it does really well, which, yeah, kind of surprising. It is USB Type-C, and it also has wireless charging, so that's all very good. So I guess, in conclusion, I would say, yeah, it's a nice device. It really is a nice device, but I suppose in some ways, that's all it is. It's not that it's an amazing device. There's no particular killer feature. Maybe the screen, because the screen is quite impressive, but do you really notice the difference against other screens? It does feel, so definitely it's an improvement on the XZ2. I wasn't a massive fan of the XZ2. I wouldn't have liked to have to use that as my daily for too long. The XZ3, yeah, I'm reasonably comfortable with. There's no real flaws to it. It's quite a solid, stable device. Well, I suppose the only flaw being the fingerprint sensor being so low. That is quite annoying and could be a deal breaker for me, because I guess you get used to it. I'll let you sort of think about that one. I suppose one of the pluses as well, it's only £699, and it seems odd almost that I'm saying it's only £699. I remember a time when I said I'd never spend more than £600 on a phone, but times have changed. And when you compare it to all these devices that are £800 or £900, actually, you know, being £200 cheaper, that's quite a big thing. It's only £200 more than the OnePlus 6T, which everyone says is a bargain at the price. So I think they're making some good inroads to sort of being that I could use as a daily. And like I say, it's just generally a good solid device that there's not really any issues with. So I don't know, hopefully that's helped you. Please do leave me any comments or questions in the comments down below. I do try and answer them all. I do read them all. Let me know what you think. Am I being a bit hard? Is it actually an amazing phone, or do you agree with me that it's not really anything sort of special about it in some ways? It's just a good phone. So let me know in the comments down below, but for now, my name's Andy, and I'll catch you all again soon. Well done, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, you might want to click the little fellow that should hopefully appear about here to subscribe. You may also want to check out some of my other videos, which are going to appear somewhere there. Also, come and have a look at my website, androidandy.uk. There is also a forum. Come and say hello on the forum if you've got any questions about things, or request me to review things, or anything else. Just come and have a chat on the forum.